Marriage?
So this is text 8, Nectar of Instruction. Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasi niyojya tistan braje tat anuragi jananugami kalam nayed akilam iti upadesha sharam. So we do the word for word. Tat.
No. Just go straight.
Translation: the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Golok, Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to His devotional service. Purport: since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul.
We have a situation now in the Kali Yuga where there's bodily pain, there's mental, rather I could use the word bodily anxiety and mental anxiety. And in one purport in the first canto in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada mentions that mental pain is more acute. So we're seeing that now, mental pain, mental anxiety. There's a famous book. It's a cyclopedia of mental problems. The American Encyclopedia of Mental Problems, where it lists every single one. When it was first printed in 1952, there were 16 conditions. Now, why they have to recognize these conditions is often for insurance claims. If someone has a certain mental problem, schizophrenia, social phobia, antisocial disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, psychopath, sociopath, then one has to identify these. And for every one, they give various types of combinations of medicine. So now from 16 identified emotional conditions, they have like 300. Even now, the psychiatrists have coined a phrase that when someone dies in your family, previously we would call it a period of mourning. Now it has been referred to as an adjustment period. It has a technical name now, adjustment period. You know, when when the mother gives birth and she's working, then by law she's allowed to take off so many days. Now they're introducing the idea that the man must also take off. I mean, things are really changing. You know, the idea that same-sex marriage is completely normal and completely acceptable is now being presented in many societies, whereas previously it just wasn't socially accepted. Even religiously it's not really accepted. Same-sex marriage, the Church of England accept same-sex marriage. The Catholics, of course, don't. But so these mental conditions are very acute, and they cause a lot of problems. I know for a fact that when America was fighting in Afghanistan, so many soldiers were killed. Unfortunately, they were killed. But more soldiers on return from combat have committed suicide than were killed in Afghanistan. More soldiers. So this is the age we're living in. And with our cell phones, messages of anxiety are going around all the time. So Prabhupada is identifying this. And he's saying sometimes we have contradictory ideas from the past. And they conflict. And these are dangerous. Prabhupada's saying they are dangerous. Please continue.
In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 6, it is said,
Chapter 8, text 6, please, O great learned scholars of Govardhana, stroke Calcutta, stroke Stellenbosch, stroke North Coast, stroke South Coast. Obviously you know this, you're just out of humility, not wishing to show off. 8.6. Have it in your hand. I'm shocked. I mean, even I know it. I know it, anyone can know it. Yam yam vapi.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram tam tam ivayate kaunteya sada tat bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan.
So it's a psychological fact that whatever we're attached to, that's what we think about. When there's ashakti, which means attachment, then we will think of such a subject. Jagadish, you have attachment to your daughter Radhika, so you're thinking of her. Am I correct? It's a natural psychological. Sridham, you have attachment to your guru, so you're thinking of the guru, right? Nadia, you have attachment to teeth, so you're thinking of like people opening their mouth and what special treasures and bridges and canals and roots you can find in that mouth. Am I correct? Yeah. Yesterday I phoned my mother, and today is my birthday, and she has some attachment for me, so she's thinking of me. She said that. So we want to transfer our attachment to Krishna, Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Govardhana. Not just personalities, but places. Radha Kund, Shama Kund, Dhaninavatana Kund, Apsara Kund, Kusum Sarovar. And we want to transfer our attachment to pastimes. Rasalila, Mahalila, Gambhira, Tota Gopinath. So we want to transfer our attachment to such personalities. So now Prabhupada is going to quote a famous verse from Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Samhita Sindhu, which is the Parives. What does Parives mean? Entrance. It's the essence again, that word Parives Sa, the essence verse. This verse of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And what does that mean in English? Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti?
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous devotional service. But of course that's not really the proper definition of the word, because English lacks. Raga Nuga. Nuga means to follow. Rag, those who are practicing Ragatmika Bhakti are called Rag, or in Rag. Who are those people who are practicing Ragatmika Bhakti? The residents of Vrindavan. No one in this material world. And who are the residents of Vrindavan? The cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, and the gopis. So to follow in their footsteps, Anuga, is technically Raganuga. But we have this English translation, spontaneous devotional service. Please continue.
This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna prasadam. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises, Tistan Vraje, one should live in Vrindavan or any part of Rajabhumi. Rajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in extent, in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes.
So taking shelter of the advanced devotee can be understood in two ways. First, you take shelter of apricot devotee. Who's apricot devotee? Cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj. But also you take shelter of prakat, if you can. Prakat means living. So for us we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. But he's not living. So we have to try to find out other advanced devotees who are following in his mood, who have his bhav, who are following in his line, who are living, and try to take shelter of them. So following in the footsteps is twofold. Aprakat, which means cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and prakat.
This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishnam smaram janam chasya prestam nija samihitam tat tat katha rathas kaso kuryadvasam vraje sadha. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Raja and always engage in Krishnam smaran janam Chashya Prestam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So what is that intense desire? What is it called? Lobha. Lo yum, lobha. Intense desire, intense greed. This is something more than utsahan. Utsahan means enthusiasm. Utsaha, festivals. Utsahan, utsahan nishtaya daya. But more than just general enthusiasm. And samutkanta, more than even yearning. This is where lobha, where one has intense greed to follow in the footsteps of the cowherd boys, Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So there's three different aspects to this verse. Krishna Smaranam. What does that mean? Think of Krishna, but Krishna Smaranam Janam Yasya, with his associates. So you just don't think of Krishna by himself, but he's with his associates. And the associates you think of is according to your taste. And that is the next word, Nija Samahita. Nija Samahita means of your choice. We can't tell you. You must think of Krishna with the cowherd boys. Subal, Sridama, Kalavinka, Madhamango. Or you must think of Krishna with Mother Yasoda. Or you must think of Krishna with gopis. Even thinking of Krishna with gopis, one group may think of Krishna with Radharani. Another group, another sampradaya, Nimbakas, think of Krishna with Chandravali. So Nija Samahita means your choice. Krishna Smaran Janam Kasya, Prastam Nija Samahitam. And when you think Tat Tat Kata, you always talk about, you always think about, with rati, with taste. With taste. You always discuss, you always think about, you always pray. Kuyid Vasam Vrajasada. And you always reside in Braj. If not in body, in mind. That's the most important thing. Please continue.
Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Now this is the second most important verse in the practice of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti.
Seva sadhaka rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi, tad bhava lipshuna karya, praja lokanu sa rataha. In the transcendental realm of Raja, Rajadham, one should serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is siddha purush, or a spiritually perfect soul.
So some people would object when they hear this instruction to always think of Krishna and his associates. And they will say, oh, I'm not qualified. I am full of anarthas. I am full of lust. I'm full of greed. I'm a conditioned soul. But Prabhupada in this translation to this verse, Sevasarika Rupena, has said that even in the conditioned state, just read it, even in the conditioned state,
Is it what I've read already?
it's in the translation, about two-thirds down.
Okay.
Even in the conditioned state, this method is applicable.
This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage.
So that is us. Is any of us presumptuous enough to say we're liberated? Are we liberated? Are we free from all anarthas? No. So we're in the conditioned stage, Badajiv. So permission is being given by Prabhupada, by Rupa Goswami, that even in a conditioned stage, one can attempt, if you have the qualification, if you are sufficiently advanced. We're not talking about siddha, perfection, we're talking about conditioned soul. But even amongst conditioned souls, there's levels. And if we have that inclination, if we have that qualification, we can attempt to think of Krishna with his associates. So permission has been given here. So the idea that no, I am too fallen, or no, I have to wait till I am siddha, I have to wait until I am perfect, this is not what Prabhupada is saying. Raganuga sadhana bhakti, the middle word is sadhana. In the stage of bondage, one can practice Raganuga sadhana bhakti. But you have to be qualified. That's the question. You've got to be qualified. But you don't have to be siddha. Siddha means perfect, beyond all lust, beyond all greed. There can still be some vestige of an artist, and one can practice. And if you do, what will happen? This is described in Canto 10, chapter 33, chapter 39, that if one faithfully hears about the activities of Krishna from the right source, if one faithfully hears and chants about the activities of Lord Krishna with the gopis, and you hear from the right source, then hridrogam, the lust within the heart, becomes vanquished. Vikraditam vadubir Vishnu, famous verse at the very end of the chapter 33. Please continue.
Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, qualities, pastimes and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering.
Taste means rati, or ruchi rather. Ruchi means ruchi, not rati, ruchi. So it means you've come now to ruchi, taste ruchi. And then ruchi becomes ashakti, and ashakti becomes bhav. Carry on.
In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee.
So no doubt Vrindavan, Sridhar Mayapur, these places are very conducive. Just like I go for an afternoon walk. So I walk out of the door, the first thing I see is the dust. And then I see a cow. And then I walk to the Parikram trail and I see the pilgrims. And the pilgrims are addressing me, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. There's not a hello, good morning, top of the morning to you, hello boss, like in South Africa or in England. They won't even talk to you at all, they just look the other way. So it's conducive. It's conducive. And as they're walking by, the pilgrims will go like this to you. And then you go like this back. This. And then I'm sitting there, what am I looking at? Govardhana Hill is in front of me. I'm seeing all these Brijbasi pigs, Brijbasi dogs, Brijbasi cows. So it's more conducive. You know, in Calcutta you can't do that. You know, in South Africa, Johannesburg, Durban, I mean, it's even dangerous to walk out of your house. It's even dangerous to walk, and if you do, you sit in a park, and of course there are udipans even in the park. You see the grass, you see the trees, you hear the birds. These are actually can be udipans, but they're not as prominent, as strong, as forceful as the udipans you get in Vrindavan and Mayapur and Puri. Udipan means what? Something which stimulates your love for Krishna. Please continue.
This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dash, the stage of hearing.
Skip to this.
The Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop the attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in Shantarash, when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in Krishna's hand, or the flowers around Krishna's neck.
So here Srila Prabhupada is quoting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. This is a quote from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Anubhasya, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is encouraging those who have a proclivity towards Shantaras to think that they can take birth in Vrindavan, and he gave 4 items: Krishna's flute, Krishna's stick, Krishna's flower garland, and the cows. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur very clearly in Jaivedama explains that Shantaras is absent in Vrindavan, and Dasyaras, lower half, is curtailed, also absent. So now there appears to be a contradiction. So we should always address an apparent contradiction. So how do we address this apparent contradiction where Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta is saying Shantaras is present in Vrindavan? So the answer is, it is to encourage Shanta Bhaktis. That's all. Actually, Shantaras is absent, because each ras has a particular type of sthai bhav. And each sthai bhav has an object. So going backwards in Madhurya ras, the object of love is Kishore Krishna, not baby Krishna. It's Krishna as a youth. And then going to Vatsalya ras, what is the object of love? Baby Krishna, not Kishore Krishna. It's got to be baby Krishna. To the point that Mother Yasoda, when she saw Krishna and Kurukshetra, put him on her lap, started kissing his head and feeling him and covering him like a young child. So in Sakya Ras, coming down now to the third one, the object of love of Krishna, the Vishaya, is Puganda, between 5 and 10. So now coming down to Dasya Ras, then the object of worship is Krishna. And it can be as Kumar, Puganda or Kishore. But coming to Shantaras, the Shantaras Bhakta, what is the object of worship for the Shantaras Bhakta, according to Rupa Goswami Bhakti Samhita Sindhu? Narayan. It's Narayan, Paramatma, Shiradakshai Vishnu. So this you have in Vaikuntha, Narayan. You don't have Narayan in Vrindavan. Then you may say, but one time Krishna changed into a form of Narayan, but that was just a pastime. He doesn't actually, the super soul doesn't actually exist in Vrindavan. So the object of worship for the Shanta Bhakta, which is four-handed Chatubhuj, is not present in Vrindavan. Therefore Shanta Ras is not present in Vrindavan. But sometimes objects have a semblance of neutrality, and that would be like a flute. But it's not actually Shanta Ras, but it appears neutral. A tree stands there giving shade to Krishna, so it appears to be Shanta, but it's not actually Shanta Ras. For example, one of the examples in Shanta Ras given there is the cows, but the elderly cows are giving their milk. So that's a Sanchari Bhava Vatsalya Ras. So the older cows in Vatsalya Ras, and the younger cows lick Krishna, they're friends with Krishna. Even Govardhana Hill, which would appear to be in Shanta Ras, is not. It's in Sakya Ras. So this is how we've answered this apparent contradiction, that it is simply to encourage. Everything about bhakti is to encourage. So to encourage the Shanta Bhaktas. But according to Bhakti Samhita Sindhu and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Shanta Ras is actually absent in Goloka Vrindavan, but is firmly present in Vaikuntha. And in Vaikuntha, the lower half of Dasya Ras. But Sakya Ras is not in Vaikuntha. Then you may say, but what about Madhurya Ras? What about the Lakshmi serving Lord Narayan? No, they're serving. It's das. It's not Madhurya. It's not Madhurya at all. All right, we'll finish off. Carry on.
In Dasya Ras, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka and Raktaka. In friendship, Sakya Ras, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridham or Sudham. In Vatsalya Ras, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda. And in Madhurya Ras, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita or her serving maids, Manjaris, like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instructions in the matter of devotional service.
So I remember when this book was first published in 1975, and we got the manuscripts in 1974, and we were discussing this 11 verses by Rupa Goswami. Very important, very wonderful. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Srila Giriraj Govardhana ki jai. Radhe Shyam Lalita Vishaka ki jai. Nitai Gaura Hare ki jai. Jagannath Subhadra Balarama ki jai. Shri Kaliya Krishna Dasa ki jai. Shri Narahari Saka ki jai. Disappearance day yesterday and today. Appendix.